episode 167. If you want to improve, be ready to be thought of as foolish and stupid.
You're listening to the very best podcast in the world on health, wealth, and happiness. Please remember to leave a review and share with all your friends and family. And here is your host, Lars Hilser.
No, actually, here he is. So, thanks, David. Still, eternal gratitude for recording the intro thingamajigger with your very, very, very British voice. Welcome to the very best podcast in the world, your only source in the entire fucking universe for personal supremacy through health, wealth, and happiness. And before I forget on this gorgeous Tuesday, to remind you about housekeeping and sharing, and that sharing is motherfucking caring. So if this episode resonates well with you, or if you hate it, but in the back of your head, there is a family member or a close friend who could benefit from the episode, share it with them, because that means you care. Otherwise, you're an ignorant whatever poo. So, housekeeping over. Oh yeah, don't forget to subscribe. If you are encountering difficulties subscribing, please go to the very best podcast in the world.com, and below every single episode and page and whatnot that's there, there is a multitude of buttons that you can press that will take you to your favoritist podcast subscription thing in the world. Whatever. So you get the picture. What are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about taking flak. And taking flak takes, we talked about the bullshit filter a while ago, right? And this kind of plays into it, right? So this brings me back about, 20 years? God damn it, I'm old. And, no, more than 20 years probably. So I started, my web design firm, which was way ahead of its time, anticipated mobile devices. And, that's when data was still insanely expensive, mobile data. And I thought, number one, looking at a full screen website on these, remember these really, really old Blackberries with a really bad resolution, and then, I'm not talking retina displays or, 4K res. This was, 320 by less, right? And you had this clunky keyboard at the bottom and whatever. And, my thought was, okay, look, once we kind of figure out that your website is visited by one of these things, one of these dinosaurs, why don't we have a different version of the page, right? That gets delivered to the device. Number one, it's going to make the person paying the bill for these BlackBerry services a very fucking happy camper, because you're not downloading 2 megabytes, but you're, maybe downloading 125 kilobytes, which back then made a fucking difference. Now every photo is bigger than, 2 megabytes, right? But that being said, I was way, way, way ahead of my time. Planning all of these things and, slowly but surely, not revolutionizing the world. That came later. But it was like, here's the point. So I talked to my dad and he was like, well, everybody's doing web design. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't get the point, right? And so anyhow, we get into this long debate and surely, but, slowly, we got to, very interesting examples and a very interesting and loud debate over, whether that will be worth my time or I should rather go into the 9-to-5 hamster wheel. And I decided against that, luckily. But parents' advice usually is right. For all of you younger folks listening there, your parents have been through a lot of shit, and they just want to protect you from it. They're not trying to be jerks, right? Okay, keep that in mind. Hey, kudos, or star, smiley, whatever. Send this to the young folks to listen to them. This doesn't go to kind of demotivate you, right? Or to send you into despair over, having great ideas. They can change the fucking world, right? Look at Uncle Elon and all of that, all of those brilliant people out there. Who says you can't be one of them, right? But at the end of the day, an interesting question to ask here: are even small improvements subject to ridicule? Right. And you're going like, okay, sure. Because your improvement in an organization, for instance, will cut into other people's comfort zone. Right. So if you suggest, for instance, you work in a big organization and you kind of bring forth the idea that, hey, if everybody worked 5 minutes longer, and didn't take the cigarette breaks or whatever, you're going to get a lot of shit. Right. And justifiably so. Because these are the people who are in their, hamster wheel world, and they don't want their world to change. They're comfortable. That's why it's called the fucking comfort zone, right? So, even minute changes will have, talk about the butterfly effect, whether that exists or not. But, if you change, in a large organization in particular, if you change something really minute, it's going to have significant impact. Think of, I don't know, the conveyor belt line worker that puts in the same 4 screws every day, and then all of a sudden somebody comes to, well, we can do the same thing, but with 3, Jesus, say that 10 times in a row, can do that with 3 screws, can achieve the same effect. And all of a sudden this dude who's been turning in the 4 same fucking screws, for the past, half a decade is going to go totally bonkers, right? Under the pretext that we need to increase efficiency. Dude's going to be like, go fuck yourself. I've been doing my 4 screws. I don't want to do more cars. That means more stress, and increase and whatever and blah. And, so, even small changes, right? Or small suggestions of improvement. Let's call it what they are, right? Let's call them what they are. There we go. Proper English, please. They usually bring discomfort to someone, and so, remember when we did this episode about Kaizen, like, a week ago, or was it a week ago? I think so. Something like that. It's about continual fucking improvement. And that's what it's all about, right? So it's about, motivating the people to get out of their fucking comfort zone. And that's what we learned in the leadership episode, how to get them out of there, and how to motivate them to get out of there by themselves rather than stimulating them from the outside. You're going to have a very, very, very bloody uphill battle, if you try to kick someone out of their comfort zone. You have to, kind of plant the seed and then let them come up with, that's not that bad, and then perhaps even give the idea to them. They were the person to plant the seed, and you're going to get there, right? So what am I trying to say here? Remember the Wright brothers, first in flight? Not really, but, they got the thing flying in Kitty Hawk, I think it was. Those dudes really, really, really changed the world. Not necessarily immediately, right? But, while other people were, still experimenting with these fucking hot air balloons, and you remember those helium-loaded, ships, airships, those Zeppelins that would blow up left and right, like in Lakehurst. Interesting shit, right? And these dudes were like, okay, look, we'll take the concept of a bird with the wings and stuff, do the propellant thing, and then, we're going to move forward, right? I don't even know whether that thing had a propellant. I don't know. Anyhow, interesting experiments had been done, till then, by then, whatever. And these dudes, figured it out to a degree where it actually took off in a very literal sense, right? But until the point in time that they proved their point and that their concept would work, they were ridiculed. It was like these dudes, they were a laughing stock of Kitty Hawk or wherever they actually lived, right? And that's what you have to keep in mind, right? if you want to improve something, right? Let's go back to the organization. You're going to be thought of as foolish unless a concept like Kaizen has been implemented in your organization and is lived in and by the organization. Because you can, tell me what you want, but an organization, whatever size it is a living organism. And, if you introduce something like Kaizen or, other similar models to improve the organization as a whole and constantly improve it, you're going to see shitloads of stuff happening. And as soon as you adapt or, get the mindset into all of the people by incentive or motivation, right? You're going to see a lot of change and a lot of progress happening really, really, really fucking fast. If you then move on to, really cut the legs off hierarchy, and the chief executive being kind of like the same, under the same obligation to constantly improve the organization than any line worker is, to get the whole joint more effective and efficient, then you really have a breathing fucking economical monster, right? And that's the very interesting point. And only then will you not be seen as foolish. So let's get back from utopia to the real world, right? To the dystopian fucking real world. Now, if you work in a conventional organization, right? 9 to 5, everybody's there, frowny face, pretty much fucked with the situation that they're in, but can't be really motivated to change shit, and then you go there gung-ho and say, okay, there we go. We're going to change this and it's going to save the company $20 million, euros, yen, whatever per year, which usually, entails that people have to work more or, be more productive or whatever. Then you're going to get real flack. And that's what consultants like me are for, to come up with stupid ideas like that. Anyhow, long story short, if you want to improve anything in the world, you're going to have to get used to the fact that people are going to look down on you as foolish and or stupid. And I think that's kind of like the point I'm trying to make. There's no way to prevent it except for you really, really, really scaling up on your bullshit filter, maybe adding a second one, because you're going to get a lot of flack. You got to get used to it. However, if it's your mission to improve, and if you think that your improvement or your idea of improvement can actually achieve something, you're going to be the star of the show, right? And the people, that used to look down upon you are going to look up to you because, you made the world a better place, even if it's just a small fraction of it. So in that sense, I hope I was able to get the point across without hurting too many feelings. So in that sense, have a lovely rest of your Tuesday. And if you've already had it, have a good night. And we will be in touch tomorrow when we're going to talk about pain and, how it teaches you. Peace out. Stay safe.